Editing your video on a computer can bring life and sparkle to your projects. Using video editing software can transform you and your video into creative visual storytelling wonders. Editing video is quick, exciting, and fairly cheap. Unfortunately, the steep learning curve of most video editing programs intimidates lots of folks and they give up in frustration. As a lifelong professional video producer, I think the biggest thing that confuses people is when they first open any video editing software and they see this window-laden interface. No other computer genre packs as much onto the screen as video editing, and I think people get very confused by it. This is Windows Movie Maker, a free program you'll find installed on most PCs when you buy them. Windows Movie Maker is a basic program with a relatively universal interface. In other words, virtually all video editing programs share Windows Movie Maker's basic on-screen layout. You can see that there are 4 open windows at the moment, and they all have separate functions. Now, additional windows can be called up in Windows Movie Maker, but not all at once. 4 is all you have at any one time. You can hide some windows and something else will be displayed. In all, a computer video editing program might have anywhere from 8 to about 20 different windows. No wonder people get confused. What the heck is all this stuff? Okay, well, here's a basic explanation. In Windows Movie Maker, as all video editing programs, when you divide the screen into 2 sections horizontally, you will see that the top half contains 3 windows and the bottom half is 1 large window. Starting in the upper left, in Windows Movie Maker, you have the task pane. Then in the middle, you have a viewer window that can do multiple things. On the far right, your third window across the top is an output monitor. Now on the bottom half of Windows Movie Maker, you will see what's called the timeline, and it takes up the entire bottom half of your screen. Now let's have a more detailed explanation of each of these separate windows. Let's start with the timeline. The timeline is universal to all video editing programs. The timeline is where you build your movie. The timeline is a visual representation of your story. You can see which clips you have put where. Also, you can see a waveform representation, which is this squiggly line, of your audio. In Windows Movie Maker, your timeline has 1 line for standard video, 1 line for video effects and transitions, a 3rd video line for titles, and 2 lines for audio. They're labeled here on the far left of the screen, and the thin black lines running horizontally separate them. And as you play your timeline, that is your movie, and you see it in your output monitor, which is in the far right. More sophisticated programs have additional lines available for video and audio. Final Cut Express, which is what I use, has 99 lines for each. Some programs have an infinite number, but honestly that's kind of overkill. I've never gone over 25 lines, and even that was an enormous headache. You use multiple lines to mix together multiple sources of video or audio like what you're seeing now. All of these floating shots are considered separate sources, and they are all on their own individual video line. Now for simple productions, you won't need any more than Windows Movie Maker gives you. Now if you do want to get fancier, you'll have to look at a more expensive program than Movie Maker. Looking at the top half of your screen, you see 3 open windows. Like I said earlier, the first one on the left is the task pane. The task pane lists such tasks as importing video or audio. You also have a list called Edit Movie, which brings up different windows and functions. In the task pane, you also have a set of links that bring up functions for saving your movie to the hard drive or burning a disk. Lastly, the task pane has links to tips on how to edit. You can learn a lot from these links. Now, if you wish, you can turn your task pane on or off in the View pull-down menu, which is located across the top. Moving over to the middle window in the top half, you have your Viewer window. The Viewer window can be set to show any one of 3 things by clicking this small field in the middle. The Viewer window will show you either collections, effects, or transitions. Collections is the name given to all the media that you have collected within your project. Every clip of video, every audio clip, and every still picture is what collections will show. As with all three viewer window options, you can set collections to be viewed as either thumbnails or a list, which is referred to as details. If you change your viewer window to effects, you will see a total of 42 different effects. Everything from changing the color to pixelation to rotation is found in these effects. You add effects to your movie simply by clicking and dragging the icon you choose down into your timeline. Changing the viewer window to transitions, you will see 60 different transitions that give your video some pizzazz as you change from one shot to the next. To use any transition, just click whichever blue icon you want and drag it into your timeline. Using effects and transitions is easy, and they give your movie many advanced digital enhanced effects. Moving on to the third window on the top in the far right, this is called your output monitor. This is where you watch your edited movie. Generally speaking, the output monitor is used to show what is in your timeline, and this is very much just like a miniaturized TV inside your computer. In fact, in order to get a better understanding of why there are so many windows in a video editing program, it helps to know just a little bit about the history of editing videotape. Before computers, it took literally about $1 million of separate components to edit video using motion effects and graphics. A well-stocked edit room had dozens and dozens of different pieces of equipment. Here's a picture of an old-fashioned analog system that I bought in the mid-1980s. Now, this was not a $1 million system. This was a cheap system, and it didn't include hardly any bells and whistles, yet it still contains 8 different components. Today's computer video editing programs squeeze down each component into its own little window, which is why the editing interface is so complex. Once you become familiar with all the different windows, what they do, and switching between them, editing videotape in a computer will make a lot more sense. Well, that's it for this lesson in basic video editing. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information, contact us at videoproductiontips.com. Thanks for watching. I'm Lorraine Grula.